Hey yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you are sick and tired of spending $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every single year, stop immediately and go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your own wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family and you want your name in the shoutouts like our buddy Harold in St. Louis, then check out our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. And an ongoing promotion we've got, any $25 a month contributor will get to co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and our $10 a month contributors will be entered into a drawing free opportunity to also co-host an episode of Going Live. And I see that Harold is on the line with us tonight. Harold, always a pleasure to see you, buddy. So glad you could be with us tonight. Harold has been amazing this week. For those who haven't noticed, I've been off for a couple days, some pretty serious personal family matters, and Harold has been so supportive. Harold, I can't tell you how much it means to hear from you tonight. It's great to see you there, brother. And everybody else, welcome to the live episode. It's the first episode we've done in a week, and I wanted to get into WrestleMania week with a whole lot of things going on. So, this week is going to be kind of jam-packed, and here's why. WWE is taking over the wrestling and the whole television world all week. We had Raw, we have SmackDown that went down tonight, we have shows on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and then, of course, the 7+ hour WrestleMania show Sunday, and then back to Raw and SmackDown the next 2 days after that. So it's going to be a relatively insane week for wrestling. And now I'm not going to claim to be that insane with the Pro Wrestling Podcast. However, this week we have our episode tonight of Going Live. This is our Tuesday night thing for this week. Tomorrow we'll be launching another article on the Infro's Corner. If you haven't checked that out before, please do. I'd love to get your feedback on the editorial pieces that I put up there. We have a great interview that I conducted last week with someone who I'm really excited to launch. I'll put that episode up later in the week. And then, of course, Saturday night, we have our Going Live episode. Sunday night, during the pay-per-view, I'm going to try to be online and responding to questions and comments on Twitter, at Fro Wrestling on Twitter. So feel free Sunday night during the show, if you have something you want to get off your chest or reactions to what you're seeing on the pay-per-view, by all means, get that out there. I would love to talk to you guys live while we're watching WrestleMania, hopefully watching it together. I do want to announce that we've had, for weeks now, we've been doing this greatest superstar of the Monday Night Wars tournament, and our winner has been crowned. If you go to frowrestling.com right now, the picture is there, the banner, the headline. The winner of the greatest wrestler from the Monday Night Wars is The Rock. What a great tournament. You guys did an amazing job fantasy booking that. It is an awesome opportunity for me to see how you guys feel about the booking of professional wrestling. This was a really close final. It was The Rock versus the Macho Man Randy Savage in the finals, and you guys did a great job. It was so close. 55% of the vote went to The Rock, 45% went to the Macho Man. Very close, could have gone either way. I actually am curious, and if you would like to put a comment into either the chat feature tonight through Spreaker or in the YouTube link once it posts to YouTube, I'd love to know your opinion about something. I find this fascinating. When I reflect on the Macho Man Randy Savage, right? When I think about the Monday Night Wars, I think during the Monday Night Wars, I don't know that Randy Savage's influence was as important as the rest of his career. And why? The reason I'm bringing this up is as we did this tournament, one of the things I think that was really hard was to separate the Monday Night Wars years from the duration of someone's career. The Rock really hit his stride in the Monday Night Wars and has just been relevant many times since. And so Macho Man Randy Savage, we're not talking about WrestleMania 3 against Ricky Steamboat. We're not talking about 5 against Hulk Hogan or the Macho King and the Ultimate Warrior and the Elizabeth stuff. We're not really covering that with this tournament. And I wonder, and this is the question I have for you, so by all means, put it in your response in the comments. Do you think that people, when they book these fantasy tournaments that we do, are they looking at it in the context of the tournament? Because for me, when I saw The Rock versus Randy Savage, I had two instant reactions. I thought, this is a dream match that everybody has talked about for years. I was surprised it came down to them, but I kind of liked it because it's a dream match everybody wanted. But when I really think about it, I don't know that the Macho Man was anywhere near The Rock's level when it was actually happening during the Monday Night Wars. And that's where I'm kind of curious. I see John, the sports guy in Hatfield, is here tonight too. John, always great to hear from you. John is like my man on the streets. He actually ran into an acquaintance of mine this week, and I actually met up with that guy today, and he was thrilled that he got to meet John, the sports guy. It's awesome when my listeners bump into each other. It's very cool. So for anybody else, if you're new, by the way, I forgot to say this at the onset of the show. If you're new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, if you want to know what we're about and what we're going to talk about, go to our homepage, frowrestling.com. That's where all the topics that we're going to discuss are posted. And if you have questions, listen, some people really want to think about their questions ahead of time. They don't like to just call in or put a comment up there because they're concerned for some reason that I might not understand where they're coming from. If you think about your questions, you really want to get them into the show, that's what we have the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line for. 267-642-1160 is a talk-to-text service. You call in, it's free. You tell me what you want me to talk about, what you want me to address, a rumor, something of that nature, and it will send me a text message with your topic, and I can get your comments into the show. By all means, if you do that, try to make sure that you put your name in your message so that I can give you credit when we get to the show. All right, so tonight's episode, I want to address a couple things. The title of the episode, when you go on to Spreaker or YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you go to tune into the Pro Wrestling Podcast, is Roman Reigns heel turn with a question mark. And the reason I made that the title piece is that is going to be the name of the article that's coming out tomorrow. So, the little heads up that that's coming for you guys. But I really, in that article, I delve into what WWE's thinking has been historically with regard to Roman Reigns. And then at the same time, where we're at right now and what they may do going forward. And the reason I find this fascinating is we the fans have been saying for a very long time that Roman Reigns, despite the fact that many people will agree he's a talented wrestler, most people don't want him to be the face of the company right now. And when I say that, I mean that figuratively and literally, the face of the company as in the baby face and the head of the company. And I think if people were given an option for something just a little different, if we said to the fans, listen, Roman Reigns is going to be the WWE Universal Champion, but he's going to turn heel to do it, I think people would be more receptive because they have been so standoffish when it comes to Roman Reigns being pushed as the next baby face of the company. And I wonder, now that the rumor has been started out there, where WWE's thinking is on that matter. Will we see Brock Lesnar lose the Universal Championship and then Roman Reigns turn heel and then go into future feuds as the bad guy? Or do we see Roman Reigns get crammed down our throat as the babyface Universal Champion that we don't really have the passion to see? So I'm curious to see what happens with that. And in the article that will be coming out tomorrow, it is much more detailed than I'm saying, but it's just something for you to think about ahead of time. Something else I really want you to think about, how mind-boggling and monumental this is that at WrestleMania Access this week, we're going to have tournaments going on. There will be tag team tournaments and singles tournaments related to the NXT North American Championship, related to the United Kingdom Championship, and related to the Tag Team Championship, the NXT Tag Team Championship, where you're going to get to see people from outside of the WWE family of talent coming into WrestleMania Access and becoming a part of those tournaments. It's an open invitational thing. And there are independent stars that are already being advertised that are going to be a part of the show. I find that fascinating when you think about the history of WWE and their reluctance to either acknowledge or promote other promotions. But as many people have noted, that the relationship between WWE and the WWN or Evolve Wrestling has really grown. And I think that's where some of the foot in the door for some of these indie talents comes from. And at the same time, I think WWE maybe, and I pray this is true, I'm hoping WWE is starting to understand that the internet wrestling community and the smart fans that we have now have changed the industry. They've made it so it's a little bit different than it was back in the 80s and 90s, where you would tune in every week because you were curious to see what was going to happen on the show. The Monday Night Wars was all about spontaneity, and nobody had any idea what was going to happen and who was going to jump to whose show. We have none of that now. When someone leaves Impact Wrestling, we know 3 months ahead of time they're coming to WWE because they signed. It's a very different world now, and I'm hoping WWE, using these independent talents and keeping things a little fresh in this overexposed time period that we're in right now, is hopefully going to help the business. I really wish they could keep kayfabe a secret, but in this day and age, it's very hard to do that. So I'll be curious to see if this WrestleMania Access opportunity for these outside talents to coming in opens the door, hopefully, for working with other promotions for other projects. Be curious to see. House of Hardcore, I had to put this out there. This is something I've become very passionate about. So I don't know if anybody was paying attention, but House of Hardcore held an event in Philadelphia, and it was fantastic. It had all the spectacle that you would expect from a big pay-per-view show. And it was headlined by the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis, formerly known as Magnus. And he had the Austin Idol in his corner from back in the Memphis days, and he took on Tommy Dreamer. And naturally, Nick Aldis walks out as the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But more specifically, related to the show in general, I've come to the realization that House of Hardcore is really trying to deliver premium quality matches and storylines. When you see people like Sami Callihan or Ace Romero, people on the cards, Brian Cage, Willie Mack, Flip Gordon, who is becoming one of my absolute favorite wrestlers in the world right now, Matt Cross, those people, Bull James, Sam Adonis, like when you see these guys show up at a House of Hardcore show, they're not just there to put people in seats because of their brand name recognition. They're out there really working hard to deliver an amazing match so that the fans are thoroughly entertained as much as they would be if they went to a WWE show. Or at least to a Ring of Honor or an Impact Wrestling or an AAW or a New Japan show. Something of that nature. And I love it. And I think Tommy Dreamer, for all those years, Paul Heyman was given so much credit for the successes of ECW, and I'm not in any way taking away from Paul Heyman's contributions to ECW's success, but I wonder sometimes if the creative juices of people like Tommy Dreamer, Raven, those types of people aren't every bit as much, if not more important than Paul Heyman's contributions in a lot of ways. Paul was the insane one who wanted to work 27 hours a day instead of 24, and it was his baby, but I just wonder, when you see the creativity of the House of Hardcore shows, how much there was influence from people like Tommy Dreamer to really make that brand what it is, because it's fantastic. In addition, there's so much stuff coming to the WrestleCon events during WrestleMania week. You've got on the 5th, on Thursday, Wildcat Wrestling is going to be there. You've got on Friday, Crash Lucha Libre is going to be there. You're going to get to see over the weekend, Rev Pro will be there. But the big one is Friday night for me. On the 6th, Lucha Underground versus Impact Wrestling. They've announced more matches. You're going to get to see Austin Aries, for the first time, at least that I've ever heard of, team up with Rey Fenix to take on Penta OM and Alberto El Patron. I don't think that match will ever happen again, and I love that these two organizations are working together to bring a very unique experience to these huge festivities in the world of professional wrestling this week. The Impact Tag Team Champions, LAX, are going to take on Willie Mack and Shane Strickland, or Killshot, if you're a Lucha Underground fan. You're going to see the Impact's Knockouts champion, Allie's going to take on Taya Valkyrie from Lucha Underground. So there's a lot going on. And there's other people going to be there too. Yeah, King Cuerno will be there, Drago, Aerostar. They're going to be in a 6-man match against DJZ and Andrew Everett and Desmond Xavier. Sami Callihan is going to be there representing Lucha Underground as his Jeremiah Crane character, and he's going to take on Eddie Edwards in an I Quit match right after he had that situation where he baseball batted him in the face. So it'll be interesting to see what that match delivers. Wrestling Revolver will be there on Saturday. So there's all the CZW will be there. House of Hardcore is going to be there Saturday night. And what's really hard as a wrestling fan is, what do I watch? Do I tune into NXT TakeOver? Do I tune into the Hall of Fame ceremony? Or do I TiVo those and watch those later? And do I really make an effort to get to one of these shows? Because these are going to be amazing shows. And they're going to be on the Fight TV apps and things like that. So there's a lot going on this week. And it's not all focused around WWE, which I love. And a big part of that is that amazing booking that people like Tommy Dreamer and House of Hardcore and other promotions are doing right now. So it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. I do want to touch on, people have been asking about Shane McMahon. The news broke last week that he has diverticulitis. As someone who had that in the past myself, it is not a fun experience. However, unlike Brock Lesnar, mine went away within a matter of about 3-4 days. I don't want to say 3-4 days. I had to be on medicine for like 2 weeks. But my point is it wasn't as debilitating as Brock Lesnar's was. Brock Lesnar's was very serious. It was life-threatening. And so I don't know where on the scale of danger Shane McMahon is in, but as of tonight, they are moving forward with this tag team match involving Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who I think have really played such a great role in this feud. I'm glad if Shane can make it, and if he can be protected enough in the match, which I find fabulous. I saw somebody wrote online that, you got Daniel Bryan, who couldn't get cleared for 2 years to compete, now is going to come back in his comeback match and be expected to carry Shane McMahon through a tag team match against 2 of the premier talents in the company with no warm-up. It's a fascinating shift in everybody's roles if you think about it. But I'll be glad to see if Shane is okay, if he's able to go. I actually am someone who's a fan of Shane's matches, except for when he punches people. I would pay real money to never see him throw a punch again because he's terrible at it. But I love watching him hit the Van Daminator from turnbuckle to turnbuckle and things of that nature. So hopefully he'll be good to go. I wanted to touch on, I got a couple comments this week on Mark Henry and Hulk Hogan. For those who don't know what's going on with that, Hulk Hogan, of course, has not appeared on WWE programming since around 2015 because of some racist comments that were made in reference to a personal matter. And Mark Henry was doing an interview this week, and he was put on the spot about how he feels about the rumors swirling about Hulk Hogan possibly returning to the company. A lot of people are curious to see if Hogan maybe fills the void that Daniel Bryan leaves behind if he leaves being the SmackDown general manager, and things of that nature, and whether Hogan would become an ambassador for the company again. Mark Henry, not as willing to bring him in right now. Mark Henry, a very, very popular wrestler in the locker room, someone who a lot of wrestlers respect, and his opinion was he doesn't think it's the right time. It's not the time yet to bring Hulk Hogan back into the fold. He needs to do more, at least in Mark Henry's opinion, more in the human service aspect of things, meaning he needs to create an opportunity to give back to segregation in the workplace and treatment in the workplace and making things less of an issue in the workplace. And he needs to go and help community centers and people who are affected by racial divide and try to bring people together on a more active basis before Mark Henry and the rest of the African American wrestling fraternity are necessarily willing to bring him back as Hulk Hogan, the man who was there in 2015. And I can completely get what Mark Henry's saying. I know there's a lot of people who just want to sweep things under the rug and bring him back and just, it'll be happy and hunky-dory. That is not reality. The reality is some people were severely hurt by what was going on in those comments, and he needs to almost in a way pay some reparations before people are going to be willing to welcome him back. Somebody who did come back this week, who I find thoroughly humorous, is El Generico's character returning to Twitter, which of course is Sami Zayn. He hasn't posted as El Generico in years, but furthering the storyline of being fired and Kevin Owens changing his Twitter handle to Kevin Steen, Fight, and things of that nature. I love seeing the El Generico, but he took it a step further by now selling El Generico merchandise. That's bizarre to me. Talk about taking a storyline to a whole different level in 2018 where so many people are wise to the business. This is pretty cool stuff. I love that they're running this angle. The angle that I'm thoroughly upset is not going to happen is the Rey Mysterio return. I could be wrong. He could show up at WrestleMania. I highly doubt it. For anybody who watched the Long Beach special for New Japan Pro Wrestling and saw Rey Mysterio get in the ring, he is clearly not ready to wrestle. He's taken time off to heal the torn bicep, and I can't see WWE putting him into a program right now the way things are. However, coming out of that Long Beach special, and if you haven't seen it, please look it up. New Japan, that was an incredible, incredible show. But the coolest part for me, the coolest part of the show was one of two things. One, the tag team match, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi taking on the Young Bucks, was one of the matches that I will reflect on for a very long time. It was that amazing. So that's one thing. But the other thing was the interesting storyline build between Rey Mysterio not being able to perform against Jushin Thunder Liger, Jushin Liger getting a new opponent in Will Ospreay, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and at the end of the match, the appearance of Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll ends up, it sets up a scenario where Will Ospreay threw out a challenge to Rey Mysterio. It looks like that Rey Mysterio promised to come back and still do that match with Jushin Liger. So you've got Mysterio Liger, Mysterio Ospreay, and now Mysterio Skrull, who attacked him at the end of the match as well. It's an opportunity for Rey Mysterio to work 3 matches with New Japan Pro Wrestling at minimum. And he actually said as much at the show that he was going to wrestle. It's a bucket list thing for him. He's going to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling this year. So I don't know if WWE is going to want to invest in his character if he's going to go to a rival promotion, even if it's only 3 appearances. I mean, let's face it, Chris Jericho went to New Japan, made 2 appearances, and he hasn't been back on WWE TV a whole lot since. So it'll be curious to see where they go from here. AJ Styles, for some who don't know, he is injured. He has a issue with his leg. He is supposed to be good to go for WrestleMania. My issue right now is that AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura is the match that every diehard, true to the core wrestling fan wants to see go on last, is not going to be the main event. It's going to be the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns match is going to go on last. They kind of leaked that today accidentally online. And that's a problem for me. Because I feel like, yes, WWE listened to the fans to some degree, allowing this AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura match to take place at all. But then the problem I have is that you need to take it a step further. We know what it is that we want to see, and we want to see Styles versus Nakamura go on last. What I find really curious is the betting odds. Shinsuke Nakamura is still favored, but only slightly over AJ Styles. Now, what I think poses an interesting concern is that the rumor has been floating around for months now that after WrestleMania, AJ Styles will be moved over to Monday Night Raw. Well, naturally, if he's the WWE champion with the black WWE Championship belt, and Roman Reigns is the Universal Champion, I can't see them putting him on Raw as champion unless they moved Roman Reigns to SmackDown as Universal Champion. Well, the belt's red. What are you going to do? Change the belt, make a blue strap, and change the whole feel and lineage of the title? Bad idea. That reason alone, because I really do think they're going to move him to Raw to fill the void that John Cena is leaving every time he takes a sabbatical. I think that's where the issue is going to be. You're going to have to give the championship to Shinsuke Nakamura. But when you do, somebody has to fill the role that AJ Styles has right now at SmackDown. And I don't know who that could be. Who can go from Raw to SmackDown and boost other than, potentially, Seth Rollins. And I don't know how I feel about I would love to see Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan, Shinsuke versus Daniel Bryan. Man, I can think about those 3 matches alone. So that is the only shift I can see, but I feel like I'm not ready for Seth Rollins to leave Raw. He's got so much more he could do there, and I really felt like he should have gotten a Universal run. I really do. But if not, that is the only logical shift I can see to compensate for AJ Styles moving to Raw would be Rollins going to SmackDown. Moving on, Will Ospreay, we talked earlier about him with Rey Mysterio and Jushin Liger. The bigger issue right now is there was a chance that he was not going to make his appearances this weekend for WrestleMania weekend because he got severely injured. For those who didn't see, he defended the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship against Marty Scurll at Sakura Genesis, and he hits a move on the outside on the apron where he does a backflip, catches and flips and lands smack on his head, busts himself wide open, and if you told me he broke his neck, I would not be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised. And thankfully, he has announced today that he will be able to make his appearances. That's a huge news. That's a great thing. And hopefully, we'll be able to see Will Ospreay this coming weekend in some amazing, amazing matches. I do want to say the WWE's European tour, I'm really getting tired of WWE booking overseas events that destroy the storylines in the United States. So let me just explain why this frustrates me. People in the United Kingdom and in the United States are both very technologically savvy. The European fans do not need to know the match card to be excited about WWE programming. So the WWE European Tour promotional materials came out, and it talks about the WWE Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins defending his championship against Finn Balor. My issue is Seth Rollins is not the WWE Intercontinental Champion. So why are they promoting a match where they're talking about Seth Rollins being champion ahead of WrestleMania. That press release should not have hit till after the Mania match. It destroys the booking of Mania. We already know who's winning the Universal Championship match. Now we know who's winning the Intercontinental Championship match. And they announced the matches for the greatest Royal Rumble being held over in Saudi Arabia, where they spoil the Tag Team Championship match on Raw. We now have a strong inclination that the Bar will retain their championship because they're defending those championships against the Hardy Boys at the greatest Royal Rumble. So what is the sense of giving all that away? If you leave it to chance and suspicion, first off, Jeff Hardy hasn't made an appearance on WWE television other than that one split-second appearance in the Ultimate Deletion. So why would you tell people he's definitely going to be back? They've already told you that The Undertaker will be there. Well, if the dead man hasn't answered John Cena's challenge, he darn sure isn't going to fly halfway around the world to appear in Saudi Arabia. It kind of ruins that he'll definitely be at Mania to face John Cena. It seems ludicrous that it would go any other way. So they're destroying their own storylines in their biggest marketplace here in the United States, their footprint for their business, and they're giving away essentially spoilers long ahead of time that don't need to happen. You're going to attract an incredible crowd in both the European tour and at the Greatest Royal Rumble simply based on it being WWE. If you want to pop the town and you really want to get them excited, you give a couple names. Yes, John Cena is going to face Triple H at the Greatest Royal Rumble event. 7 championship matches are going to take place. None of the women's championships are going to take place. You got all that. You really shouldn't need more than that. Just think about who your champions are. They're your number one draws. You don't need to suspect who's going to face who and spoil anything. We know the Bar is going to be there. All right? So telling us they're going to defend a tag team championship just destroys the WrestleMania match. Horrible planning, in my opinion. I love Braun Strowman trolling people on Instagram today, talking about he's headed to New Orleans and the family is back together. And he's had a picture posted with he and Bray Wyatt. It lends to the question, will Bray Wyatt be the tag team partner for Braun Strowman? And I don't know how I feel about that, because they've been talking about potentially doing a woken Bray Wyatt character. They've also talked about repackaging him altogether. They've talked about him being in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And now questions about whether he'll be the tag team partner. But if he does, is he a babyface? Because Strowman clearly is a face right now. Is he a heel, and does Strowman go heel after the match? Like, I don't know where that would go if they made him the partner. The biggest question, or the biggest thrill I have though is I thought they were going to ruin it on Monday Night Raw and show us his partner. I actually felt like when Braun Strowman, Braun's alter ego, came out, I felt like he really reminded me of Bully Ray with the glasses and everything else from Team 3D or the Dudley Boys. I thought that was really cool. I'm glad they didn't tell us. Let's wait till we get to the pay-per-view. Let's find out at the show. We haven't heard anything about The Rock being at the show. The winner, by the way, again, of the Monday Night Wars Greatest Superstar Tournament. We haven't heard about The Rock definitively being there or not being there. There's concern that he wouldn't get cleared for a match, so maybe he'll just make an appearance. Maybe he and Elias will have some kind of guitar concert competition of some sort. I don't care what he does. If I was WWE, it's like all hands on deck. I'd bring everything and anything you could. And the reason you got to do that is because of the insane regulations on the moves during WrestleMania weekend. Now, here's the thing. The story broke earlier this week that in New Orleans, in Louisiana, they have all these rules about what moves you can and can't do. And just to summarize, and I'm not reading it, so don't quote me to every word, but basically, no pile drivers of any kind. No diving moves where you flip or twist or anything like that and hit someone's head with any part of your body. No throwing people over the top rope. Good thing WWE gets a pass. See, that's what came out later in the week, is WWE doesn't have to adhere to any of these rule changes because their people are trained better. Whatever. The reality is, if they didn't get a bypass on that ruling, there goes your Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and your Women's Battle Royal out the window if you can't throw anybody over the top rope. The whole regulation is ridiculous. And it's all the result of an injury that took place to someone. And I have no ill will towards the person who got hurt. I understand why they're trying to protect that person. But those accidents are the exception. They're not the rule. And that's where the problem comes in. You're altering the product based around something that's a freak accident. It really doesn't happen very often. I'm glad WWE is going to be able to get around it, but I wonder what's going to happen with all those indie shows when WWE, or I'm sorry, when WrestleMania weekend takes place, when they, a lot of those indie companies, their lifeblood is their high-flying action. Well, how do you do that if you can't do any of the high-flying moves? Oh, that's the other one, stun gun. Like, the thing where the guy clotheslines somebody over the top rope, that's banned too. Can't do that either. Like, there's just all these things you can't do. It seems ludicrous. And the last thing for tonight's episode is the Young Bucks. And I wanted them to go on last for two reasons. One, I don't know how many Young Bucks matches you've watched, but if you haven't watched a lot, you need to get online tonight when this episode is over, and you need to pull up the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi and watch the match. Pull up other matches, the Young Bucks versus the Hardys, or pull up the Young Bucks versus War Machine, or the Young Bucks versus Roppongi 3K, or whatever match you want to pull up, because the Young Bucks, in my opinion, in the past, I thought, yeah, they're a great team, but I don't know if they could hang with the big guys. That Long Beach show proved not only that they can hang with the big guys, but they deserve to be in the conversation as the greatest tag team in the world. And the reason this is relevant this week is they had a conversation in the interview where they made it very clear that they are very much interested in a match against the Usos, that in 2015, they had a match, a tryout match where they got no instruction ahead of time. They were pretty much just sent out to the Wolves to face the Usos at an NXT show. Maybe it was 2014. I can't even remember at this point. And when they got there, they put on this great match or whatever, and they didn't get to hit all their spots, and the Usos won with a splash off the top corner. And I don't know if the video is available somewhere online, but if it is, I'm going to try to find that sucker. But the point of it is, they want a rematch with the Usos. And in the past, I would have said, yeah, I don't see that. I don't feel that match. But now that when you see the match with Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, it is very clear to me that these guys can hang with anyone. And I really hope at some point, Shawn Michaels said it earlier this week in an interview of his own, that these guys get an opportunity to showcase their talent in WWE, not because they can't make a great living on the indie scene. They can, of course they can. But because they deserve the opportunity to showcase that talent on the biggest stage in the business. And I hope at some point they get the opportunity to do that. Just a little tidbit for our loyal followers who want to find us on other media. Maybe you're not a big iTunes fan or whatever. We have updated our social media locations on FroWrestling.com. Check it out if you get the opportunity. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, but we're also on Podbay and YouTube, iHeartRadio, Podomatic, Freedom Television. We're on Instagram, we're on Google+, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. We're even on the Google Play Store as of today, Blurry, Podbean. So all these different sites that you can find us on if you don't like the current format that you're locating us today. There's plenty of options out there. And by all means, when you listen to one of our shows, what we would really love to get is your feedback. Please give us some comments. You guys are the lifeblood of this show. It's the beautiful thing. Every time I get a comment from Harold in St. Louis or John the sports guy in Hatfield, I love getting their information, their input, and their insight, because it fuels what I'm going to do when I do the show. And so, that being said, oh, by the way, I got to put this out there for Harold. Harold's episode number 2 is coming out this week, so keep your eyes out for that. And hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, there should be some amazing wrestling this week for all of us in some venue every day of the week. I want to throw out a quick plug to the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance. They have a show coming up on April 14th at Zern's Farmers Market. It's the second Saturday of the month. Check that out. Be there. It is a great show. And the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization has their next show coming up April 21st. And they're going to be doing their show. Go to their website on Facebook for more details for the Seven Valleys Showdown coming on April 21st. And of course, Worldwide Wrestling Alliance will return to the Quakertown Farmers Market on April 28th. I should be at that show, as it is the 38th anniversary show. If you're in the southeastern Pennsylvania area, check it out. It is a really good presentation, especially when you consider how much you pay to go to their shows. They're phenomenal. It's a great deal. Outside of that, everybody, I hope everybody enjoyed everything that's going on Raw and SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania. This is the big week. This is when everything goes down. And I hope that we start seeing some real creative storylines coming out of WrestleMania. We got a lot of big stars coming back. Samoa Joe, Big Cass, the whole pantheon of injured wrestlers will all be back within the next 2 weeks, even Alicia Fox and Brian Kendrick. So keep your eyes on WWE programming. If there's somebody who's been out for a while, you've been waiting to see, you're going to be R-Truth. That's another one. Just got to give him his due. They're all coming back, hopefully, for WrestleMania. That Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal is going to be fantastic, and hopefully you'll get to see some real shocks and surprises. That's all the time we have for this episode, but check back with us. Next episode, we'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects that we use to enter, exit, and in the middles of our shows from time to time. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the page. And a thanks to AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move and you're considering a college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at www.frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you as always for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.sportsjunkies101.com for their latest articles on the world of professional wrestling, or shoot over for editorial articles to In Fro's Corner on frowrestling.com and check out my latest articles. Next article goes up tomorrow. Until next time, take care everybody and have a great night.